Hello? Just swipe your card like always. My brother sneered, expecting me to fund his bash. I walked out without a word. 2 hours later, my phone blew up with notifications. That line wasn't the first time my brother Dylan had said something like that. But it was the last time he ever would. I was standing in the backyard of a rented lakefront villa, surrounded by glowing string lights, rented speakers, and 2 catering trucks unloading like it was a damn wedding. Dylan's 25th birthday bash. Not a milestone, not an achievement, just another excuse to party. He wore it all like a crown, his designer sneakers, the custom Dylan Day banner fluttering behind him, the smugness of someone who never paid the bill. And there he was, looking right at me, arms spread wide like a king expecting tribute, and said it. Just swipe your card like always. Not a thank you? Not even a question. A command. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just nodded once, tucked my wallet back into my jacket, and walked out through the front gate like I was going to get something from my car. I didn't come back. I got in my car, shut the door, and just sat there with my hands on the wheel, staring at the dashboard as the muffled bass from the party thumped in the distance behind me. It was strange how calm I felt. After years of chaos, guilt trips, and last-minute bailouts, I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. But not quietly. Not this time. Because if Dylan thought he could keep using me like some ATM with a heartbeat, he was about to learn just how expensive free rides can get when the driver walks away mid-trip. And I made sure he felt it. Looking back, the signs were always there. I was just too tired, too guilty, too loyal to see them for what they were. Dylan was the youngest by 7 years. The oops baby, who turned into the family project. My parents doted on him like he was the second coming of Sinatra, even when he was skipping school, wrecking cars, and blowing through every dime they lent him. And when they couldn't afford his mess anymore, the torch quietly passed to me. It started small. A gas bill here. Textbooks he never cracked open. Rent for the apartment he never stayed in long enough to unpack. But each, last time, turned into another, until I stopped keeping track of how much I'd handed over. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to know. I was working 60-hour weeks at a logistics firm by the time he was 22. He was club hopping, posting pictures with bottle girls and captions like, "Life's short, don't budget." Guess who was paying for that short, budget-free life? Our parents called it helping family. I called it bleeding quietly. The week before his party, I got a text. "Big night coming up. Gonna be epic. Can't wait. You're covering the deposit, right? Then you said it's due Friday?" No question mark. No hesitation. Just you're covering. I should have said no. I should have said not this time. But Dylan had a way of phrasing things like the decision was already made. And I had a way of giving in because somewhere deep down, I still wanted to believe he'd grow up. That he'd look at all I'd done and realize how much it had cost me, not just the money, but the years I could have spent building something for myself. That night at the lake house, when he sneered that line, "Just swipe your card like always," it hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just the entitlement. It was that he wasn't even trying to pretend anymore. And that was the moment I realized something else. He never would. Unless I made him. I didn't go home right away. I parked a few blocks down from the venue and sat there in the dark with the engine off, listening to the quiet tick of cooling metal and the distant pulse of music from the party I'd just walked out of. I kept hearing his voice. That smirk. That line. "Just swipe your card like always." It wasn't just galling, it was surgical. He knew what he was doing. He knew I wouldn't say no, not in front of the bartenders, not with the DJ testing sound, not with half the guest list showing up in borrowed sports cars and rented designer dresses. Because I never said no. I was the big brother. The fixer. The one who bought the trampoline when he was 8 and paid the parking tickets when he was 18. But not anymore. I don't know what flipped in me, but something did. A calm, cold kind of clarity settled in. Not the kind that makes you want to scream, the kind that makes you want to plan. And that's exactly what I did. First, I called the bank. The credit card he thought I'd use? Cancelled. reported as lost. No chance of anything going through tonight. Next, I called the venue. "Hi," I said, as calmly as I could. "This is Alan Thompson. I'd like to confirm that no final payment was made for the private event tonight at the Lakeside View House. My card will not be covering it. You may want to prepare accordingly." The woman on the phone sounded confused, then annoyed, then professional. "Thanks for the heads up," she said. "We'll handle it." Then came the fun part. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder I'd been building for months, screenshots of Dylan's texts, where he bragged to friends about milking the brother fund, about how he didn't need a job when he had a walking paycheck. Then more requests with captions like, "Big bro's got me," and "Don't tell mom." I sent them, anonymously, to 2 local influencers I knew were invited, both of whom I'd met through work. Both of whom hated being used. With a short message. "Here's your birthday host. Just thought you should know who's really footing the bill." I made one more call before shutting my laptop. To Mateo, my friend who owed me a favor. He worked for an events agency. Knew every photographer and caterer in the Tri-County area. "You want them to post it?" he asked. "The disaster?" "I want them to show what happens," I said, "when the free ride ends mid-party." He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Done." And then I put my phone on silent. And I waited. It started with a single notification. Then another. Then a dozen. By the time I made myself a cup of coffee and sat down on the couch, my phone was vibrating nonstop, buzzing so hard it almost slid off the table. At first, it was just the predictable ones, Dylan. Missed calls. Messages in all caps. "Bro, what the hell is going on? Why is the DJ leaving? Did you cancel the payment?" Then came the group texts. Some from mutual friends. Others from numbers I didn't recognize. "Dude, people are saying the party got shut down? Where are you? Dylan is losing it. Man, this is wild. There's a live stream. 2,000 viewers already." I clicked one of the links. There he was, center screen, pacing back and forth in his white blazer, yelling at the venue staff, who looked like they just about had it. One of the bartenders had packed up and was wheeling out a cart. Behind Dylan, a crowd of partygoers milled around awkwardly, some filming, others clearly debating whether to bail or wait for the cake. In the comments section? Pure chaos. "This the guy who scammed his bro for a party? LOL, he got exposed hard. Never seen karma land so fast. Is this the Venmo kid?" I wasn't smiling. Not because I felt guilty, but because I didn't feel anything at all. Just empty. Like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for years. Screenshots were flying across Instagram stories. A few photographers tagged Dylan in blurry shots of him mid-meltdown, captioned with things like, "When the check bounces," and "Guess Big Bro said no." An influencer I barely knew posted, "Don't expect 5-star treatment if you're using people to fund your life. Receipts don't lie. #DylanExpose." I didn't post a thing. I didn't respond. Not to Dylan's 47 missed calls. Not to the string of voice notes from our mother. Not even when my dad texted, "You need to fix this. He's your brother." I just powered down my phone. I had nothing left to say. I went to bed early that night. No TV. No music. Just the quiet hum of the ceiling fan and the softest peace I'd felt in years. When I woke up the next morning, the silence was still there. No buzz of panic. No guilt in my gut. Just a strange kind of stillness, the kind that comes after a long storm finally dies out. I turned my phone back on, but not because I planned to reply. I just wanted to see. 86 missed calls. Dozens of messages from Dylan, each more frantic than the last. The early ones were all rage. "You ruined everything. This was supposed to be my night. You're sick. I swear you're gonna regret this." Then the tone shifted. Everyone left. "They're saying I'm a joke. I don't even know who to talk to." And then finally, "Please, just pick up." My parents were no better. my mom's messages were a carousel of shame and denial. We raised you better than this. You didn't have to humiliate him. He's your brother. Family doesn't do this. I think that was the message that got to me the most, the family card. Always the fallback. Always the shield for every selfish decision. But the thing is, family doesn't do this. They don't bleed you dry and then call it love. They don't laugh at your sacrifice, then spit in your face when you stop. And Dylan? He wasn't panicking because he felt sorry. He was panicking because, for the first time in his life, he had no safety net. No one left to clean it up. The world had finally seen the version of him I'd known all along. And I didn't feel bad for exposing it. I felt free. The thing about people like Dylan is, they don't break clean. They splinter. They scatter. And when they can't pull you back with guilt, they switch tactics. Fast. By noon, his anger was gone. Replaced by desperation dressed in half-hearted apologies. Look, I didn't mean what I said. It was a joke. You know I appreciate everything you've done, man. Just got carried away. It was the pressure. Everyone expected the party to be huge. He tried to reframe it like he was the victim. Like I had snapped on a good-hearted kid who just wanted to celebrate with his friends. And when I didn't respond, he brought in reinforcements. My phone started lighting up with messages from mutual acquaintances, some I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey man, Dylan's really not doing well. He's saying you've cut him off completely? Maybe you guys should talk. Privately. He's your brother. Whatever happened, is it worth all this fallout? Fallout. Like this was some misunderstanding I'd taken too far. Like they hadn't all stood there clinking glasses under those twinkling lights, tagging #Dylanday while I was slipping out the back, tired, invisible, expected. I spent the better part of that afternoon pulling threads. The utilities in Dylan's name? None. All on me. The car insurance? Cancelled. Effective immediately. The backup rent autopay on his apartment? Gone. The streaming services? He'd have to sign up like everyone else. Every leak he never even noticed was now dry. And then I called the bank about the business loan I'd co-signed 3 years ago. Dylan had pitched it as the start of a music event company. All he ever started was a website and an Instagram page with 5 posts. But I had the paperwork. And it gave me a clause. If one party felt the partnership was no longer in good faith, the loan could be called into audit. Which I did. It's funny, the girl at the bank sounded almost relieved. Like she'd seen the red flags and had been waiting for someone to finally pull the plug. When I got off that call, I felt something new. Not just peace. Power. Not because I was being cruel. But because I was finally, for once, prioritizing myself. I wasn't Dylan's backup plan anymore. I wasn't anyone's. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went out. Not for anyone else. Not to support some obligation or attend some event Dylan begged me to bankroll. Just a quiet bar. Low lighting. Soft jazz. A place where no one knew me as someone's brother. I sat at the end of the counter with a glass of something warm and slow, and just existed. No calls. No emails. No noise. But the world didn't stay quiet. By the time I left, my phone had filled up again. A voicemail from our dad. I didn't even have to play it, I knew the tone. He always defaulted to authority when things spiraled. Then another message, this time from our mother. Please call me. Dylan hasn't left his apartment. He says you ruined his life. I stared at that line for a long time. You ruined his life. Not. He made mistakes. Not. He took advantage. Just me? The guy who'd paid his tuition, his rent, his Uber rides home after blackout nights. The guy who handed over my weekends, my savings, my credit score. I ruined his life? The next morning, I made my final move. I logged into the shared family cloud account, the one Dylan used without ever paying for. And I wiped my access clean. Logged out of the connected devices. Revoked every app permission. Pulled every shared file he ever piggybacked off of, The resume I wrote for him, the proposal deck I built from scratch, the spreadsheet that tracked bills he never opened. Gone. Then I deleted the shared calendar reminders. Call and payment for Dylan's lease renewal. Transfer to Dylan's checking, birthday. Follow up, Dylan's overdraft notice. And then I sat there, phone in hand, breathing. Still. Then I opened my contacts. Mom. Dad. Dylan. Deleted. One by one. Not blocked, not hidden. Removed. Because I wasn't going back. Not for an apology. Not for a funeral. Not ever. People think walking away from family is loud, doors slamming, screaming matches, final declarations shouted down a hallway. But for me, it was silent. Surgical. No theatrics. Just deletion. One by one, the lifelines Dylan had used for years disappeared. Not just the payments. Not just the passwords. But the connection. I started with the practical. I revoked his access to the emergency credit line I'd once set up in his name. Just in case. I never meant for him to use it. He used it 5 times in 1 year, bar tabs, last-minute items, and once, tickets to a music festival he didn't even remember attending. I called and closed the account. Paid off the last few $100s myself, just to be sure. Then I went deeper. Our parents had listed me as an emergency contact on Dylan's health insurance. I called the provider and had my name removed. If something happened, they could call each other. The more I scrubbed, the more I realized how deeply I'd tied myself to a sinking ship. For a decade, I'd been patching holes he made without a second thought. And every time I did, he leaned back a little more in the raft, sunglasses on, waiting for someone else to row. I found an old folder on my laptop, buried in my documents. Dylan finances. Receipts. Transcripts. Apartment leases. A fake resume I'd crafted for him when he said he wanted to go corporate for 6 weeks before giving up. There were emails where I begged landlords to give him another chance. Screenshots of bounced payments I quietly covered. One message to an HR manager who'd asked for a reference. I told her Dylan was resilient and resourceful. He ghosted the job on day 3. I stared at the folder for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need it anymore. I wasn't keeping score. I wasn't waiting for the day he'd finally say thank you. That day was never coming. And then something strange happened. I breathed. Deeply. Cleanly. I walked around my apartment, really noticing it for the first time. The couch I bought secondhand. The framed concert poster by the door. The chipped mug I always reached for, even though I had nicer ones. My life. Mine. Not a holding tank for someone else's wreckage. Not a series of financial landmines I was always trying to defuse before they went off. Just mine. That night, I didn't check my phone. I went to bed early, window cracked, city noise drifting in like background music. I didn't dream about Dylan. I didn't wake up with dread in my chest. I just slept. And it was the best sleep I'd had in years. It took about 3 days for the chaos to settle into something colder, quieter, the space between disaster and aftermath. By then, the dust from Dylan's implosion had spread further than I expected. I hadn't planned for it to go viral, but when you drop a match on a gasoline-soaked ego like his, fire spreads fast. One of the influencers at the party had posted a TikTok, a dramatic retelling, complete with receipts and tag screenshots. The caption read, "When your rich brother's the real party, and he finally cuts you off #brother of the year." It had over 400,000 views by the time I saw it. People in the comments weren't just mocking Dylan, they were dissecting him. Entitlement, narcissism, leech behavior. Strangers had pieced together the same puzzle it had taken me years to build. Other guests joined in. One posted a video showing the aftermath, venue staff turning off the lights mid-song, guests stumbling to their cars, one guy yelling, "Wait, there's no cake?" in the background. Even the photographer uploaded a reel with a caption that stung if you knew the story. "Not all spotlights are flattering. Some just show the mess you made." Dylan disappeared from social media within 48 hours. Not just inactive, vanished. Profiles deactivated. Comments disabled. The group chats he'd once dominated with party invites and passive-aggressive memes had fallen silent. Some of his old friends reached out to me directly, not to take sides, but to say, quietly, "Honestly, we always kind of wondered how he got away with it." I didn't respond. Not out of malice, but because I didn't need to. Let them piece it together. Let them form their own picture. For once, I wasn't the one holding it up for them. And the funniest part? Life didn't fall apart. Not mine, anyway. The money I used to spend on Dylan? It went toward fixing my car, finally replacing my broken dryer, and even signing up for a weekend photography class I'd always wanted to take. I had time, real time, to read, to cook, to meet up with friends without secretly checking my phone for the next Dylan emergency. The world didn't collapse without me in the center of his orbit. In fact, it was shockingly fine. And then came the last message. An email. No subject line. No greeting. Just a single sentence. "You really cut me out for good?" It wasn't angry. It wasn't apologetic. It was bewildered. Like a child realizing a light switch doesn't work anymore. I read it twice. Then I archived it. No reply. No drama. I just turned out the light and walked away. And that's when I knew, this time, there would be no next time. Not for him. Not for me. I didn't celebrate. There was no champagne toast, no triumphant Instagram post, no dramatic speech to mark the end of a chapter. I just deleted his email. And then I sat there, in the stillness of my apartment, and listened to the quiet. No buzz of notifications. No guilt in the pit of my stomach. Just the low hum of a fridge and the slow tick of a clock on the wall. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It was freedom. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. Not to Dylan. Not to our parents. Not to anyone who ever looked at me and saw a wallet instead of a person. In the weeks that followed, I started living like the man I'd put on hold for years. I traveled. I took long walks with no destination. I didn't explain myself to anyone. Because I owed no one. Bye-bye.